I am so excited for this show. We have Bruce Sudano on, and we'll get a little business out of the way first, but you have to stay tuned in. He is the picture perfect example of a great career in music that's still thriving and has a phenomenal past. We're so excited about it. But before we get to that, and I thank my wonderful friend of 40 plus years, Scott. Oh, there we go. Confections of a Rock Star, our sponsor, Asbury Park. Go there. I beg you to go there. Get their delicious food. It's got a rock and roll theme. And my favorite, as I say every time, they got pup food. Bring your dog there. Look at that, pup cakes. So it's a fantastic place. And related to them are outstanding burgers. Little Andy's. Wait till you see this. You're going to want to shut off the show right now and just go get a burger. Look at that. Oh, look at that. They started out inside of Confections of a Rock Star. They have their own space now. And that place is phenomenal. We want to thank them for being our sponsor for tonight's show. And now I'd like to bring into the room my friend of 40 plus years, our erstwhile co-host, publicist extraordinaire, the great, the one, the only Scott Guitarist Engel. Come on in, Scott.
Great. Hey, listen, I'm coming to you from my digs downstairs, which nobody's ever seen before.
You've never been there before?
I got the drum set. I got the new guitar I just built, the Sigmund, as we're calling it. I brought it to your house last night. I think we had a lot of fun playing it.
He plays really well. He really does.
I know most guys name their guitars after girls, but it's green and it's a tone monster, so I call it Sigmund of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters.
It played phenomenally. I
Sigmund,
loved it.
The Sigmund's face is on the on the back.
and you taught me a Joe Walsh lick so well that I'd put Joe to shame right now.
I'm excited about tonight's guest. Aren't you?
He's going to be phenomenal. Two number one hits. He had a number one hit on the Hot 100, but then with Dolly Parton, he wrote a song that she took from one of his albums, and he was number one on the country charts.
Crazy stuff.
And then in between, a zillion songs, a zillion collaborations, Dolly Parton, 1,000 other. We'll put it on in post. But he's collaborated with 1,000 other folks and has had just an absolutely amazing career.
And he's coming to us from Milan, Italy.
Yes.
I'd like to say hello to all my Italy cousins.
Yep. And look, I'm not drinking alcohol because it's middle of the day. Not that although it is always 5 o'clock.
Brew Doctor sounds like booze to me. I don't know.
No, this is kombucha.
So let's bring in Bruce.
There we go. Come on in, Bruce. Yeah.
Let's bring in Bruce.
Here I am.
There you are.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
So we are. Go on,
Scott. Put Bruce in the big box. There we go.
Yeah. So we are so excited to have you on board. What an amazing career! And one of the cool things, Scott and I are with you in the metaphoric green room, just chatting it up. And Scott said, "Anything off topic?" And we're not throwing anything, but loving softballs. But he said, "No, talk about anything." So. Your Wikipedia page, which is what I spent some time reading, it's just wonderful. You're a nice kid from Brooklyn. I assume you're a nice kid. We don't know you're a nice kid, but we think you're a nice kid.
Yeah,
and,
I think
so. and you start your career just really young, and just tell us about it. From Flatbush, right?
Grew up in Flatbush, Avenue I, East 28th Street. Took accordion lessons as a young kid, 13 years old. My father had a jukebox route. He would bring 45s home, actually be preteens, and I would look at the 45s and see the names under the title. I understood these were the songwriters. I got taken to the Alan Freed, Murray the K rock and roll show at the Brooklyn Fox, Brooklyn Paramount. Saw myself, well, how do I fit into this musical scenario? I want to be a songwriter.
And how old are you at this point? Like when
I think I think I was like 9 when I went to the first rock and roll show.
Wow.
But when I was 13, my father started managing a neighborhood band that was called the Yo-Yos. And he got the Yo-Yos signed to Decca Records, and they made a single, and and nothing really came out. But by this time I had like transitioned, to the point where I wanted to put a band together, and uh, there were before the Yo-Yos became the Yo-Yos, they were a band called the Starlighters. And when my
Okay.
father took over managing the band, he basically let the singer go and put a new singer in the band for the Yo-Yos. So the singer that got let go was a guy named Pepe Cardona. So Pepe and I were friends from 13, 14 years old. He got thrown out of the band. I said, let's put our own band together. We started putting different configurations together, all kids in the neighborhood, and rehearsing in everybody's basements. And I always say we weren't a garage band, we were a basement band, and
Were
through
you
different
rocking? Were you rocking the accordion? What were you playing?
I started, yeah, I was actually rocking the accordion, and
That was your instrument in the band. That's like question, I guess I'm saying.
yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
remember the first thing I did was put a pickup on the accordion, and so I went from the accordion to a farfisa. And then at some point, I became the bass player in the band, and then different configurations of the band, playing different instruments. In those days, we would rehearse 5 days a week for hours. So it's like I got to play a little bit of every instrument, and learned a little bit of every instrument. So. Um, Different configurations of different bands with different guys in the neighborhood. Finally, we evolved to a place where we had a band called Alive and Kickin'. We had Pepe was the lead singer. We decided we wanted to also have a girl singer as a way to differentiate ourselves
Mhm.
from other bands that were going on. We found this girl whose name was Sandy Toter. Um, and we were on the club circuit that went on in those days between Long Island and Brooklyn and Jersey, uh, and evolved our way through this club circuit to where at some point in 1968 we became the house band at a club in Manhattan. Was like the hottest club in Manhattan at that time. We were the house band at the Electric Circus for a while, and then also at this club, the Cheetah. It was at a club called the Cheetah that we would, 6 nights a week, 5 sets a night, 40 minutes
Wow.
on, 20 minutes
So now
off.
you're honing your chops for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the same time, I was going to St. John's University
Mm.
in Queens. So I would get done at whatever time, somebody would pick me up in the morning. I'd roll out of bed and roll into class. I don't know how I even did all that, but um, and then at some point, while we were the house band at the Cheetah, Tommy James from Tommy James and the Shondells comes into the club. We get to meet him, me being the aspiring songwriter that I was, kind of, glommed on to him. He was very gracious, very kind.
Mm.
We would go over to his apartment on breaks and try to write songs with him and like that. And he was the first guy to take me into a real recording studio. I always say back in those days, I had nothing to record on.
Mm.
This was before cassettes, before, it's like
Yeah.
either you had a 2-track
Yeah.
machine. But as a kid in Brooklyn, these things were too expensive for me. So
Hmm.
it's like literally, I had when I would write a song, I would have to like play it over and over and over again so that I memorized it, so that it was just in my body, and
Yeah.
and then take it to the band, and the band would work it up, and this was how it went. But then Tommy came, met Tommy. He brought us into the studio, Allegro Sound Studios, which was in the basement of 1650 Broadway,
Mm.
in Manhattan. Along with the bass player in Alive and Kickin', Woody Wilson, we co-wrote a song with Tommy called "Ball of Fire," which became like a top 20 record in
Wow.
Billboard, top 10 record
Very cool.
in Record World, 1969. Tommy produces Alive and Kickin'. The following year, we have a big hit record called Tighter, Tighter. I spent the next couple of years touring with Alive and Kicking. We got to tour with Chicago, the Mothers of Invention. We played the Felt Forum at Madison Square Garden with Eric Burden and War. You know,
Wow.
got flown out, took my first flight out to Los Angeles. Got to do American and Bandstand. You know, we shot the album cover for Alive and Kicking in the Pacific Ocean. You know, but then, at the same time, I was, just about 20 years old at that point, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty easy. Back to,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I co-wrote a hit song. Now my band has a hit song. So I was a bit of a jerk. I started firing people in the band. So by 1972, I leave the band. I moved to LA. I had a girlfriend. We got in her 63, Le Mans, and we
Right.
drove cross country, get to LA. And I have my guitar and I'm going around every publishing company trying to play my songs and, not getting anywhere kind of, so like,
Well, for the first time, you're experiencing rejection when you thought, anything you did was gold.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so that was a big wake-up call, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so exactly. So what ends up happening, I'm in LA for almost a year, like 10 or 11 months. I go back to Brooklyn. I have no money, I have no job. I move into the basement of my parents' house.
Where was the girlfriend at that point?
She stayed in LA.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So she was no longer the girlfriend anymore anyway. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're back
you
in
know, I
Brooklyn.
back in Brooklyn in the basement, and now I just like, I just have to get better at what I'm doing.
Mhm.
So really for the next couple of years, I'm in the basement and I'm listening to everybody. I'm learning to be a better guitarist. I'm studying chord progressions. I'm just really trying to hone my craft and get better at what I. At some point, another band in the neighborhood who I was friends with for a long time, said to me, Bruce, come in the band, join our band, and so I joined their band, and we're playing the same kind of circuit around the city, a few nights a week. So I'm making some money, writing songs in the basement. 1976. Um, uh, it's the bicentennial.
Oh
All this
yeah.
hoopla, all this hoopla's going on. I'm at another girl's friend's house at this point, and I'm walking back home at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I get held up at gunpoint.
Oh
And
dear.
Holy
it
shit.
and at this point, I had been debating, do I want to go back to California? Maybe I should go back. So I used this as the impetus to get myself back to California. Moved back to Los Angeles, 1976. Two of the other guys that were in the band that I was playing with in their neighborhood also had moved to LA at that point. Get out there, we form a group, the three of us, Joe Bean Esposito, Eddie Hoganson, and myself, we form a group called Brooklyn Dreams.
Right.
Um, we write a few songs. I have a number of songs that I had written when I was in the basement. We do a demo, we get a record deal.
Hmm.
I can go on. You want to ask a question?
No,
I love it. I
no,
love
this is
it.
the way we go, man. We just jump in when we can.
All
Yeah.
right.
So
I
now,
got like
so now
50 years to get through,
I know, I
You
know.
do.
So you got Brooklyn Dreams is getting hot, and all of a sudden you get signed. Who'd you sign with?
We get uh a friend of ours, the one girl in the neighborhood in Brooklyn who got involved in the music business, was a girl named Susan Mineo. She had become the vice president of publicity at Casablanca Records.
Ah,
So
Oh.
we get a record deal. We get signed by Jimmy Einer, as the first act on a new label that he was starting, which was called Millennium. Jimmy
Oh yeah.
at
I
that
remember that.
time was the producer of Eric Carmen, the Strawberries,
Huge.
Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
He was all star producer. super talent, great guy. Also, as Tommy James, Jimmy became one of my mentors. So three of us guys give up our apartments because we're going back to New York to make the album. Oh no, change in plans. You're going to stay in California.
Okay.
Okay. Hey Susan, we have no place to stay. Can we come and stay at your house for a few days while we figure out where we're going to live again? Sure. Staying at her house Sunday afternoon, March 13th, 1977. Donna Summer, who had just returned from living 8 years in Germany, returned to the States in California, in Los Angeles, with a hit song called Love to Love You, Baby. Is taking a driving lesson, decides she's going to stop at the house of the publicity director of Casablanca Records. She comes up, we meet Donna. Um, Joe, Eddie, myself, and Donna hit it off immediately. We immediately start writing songs. Um, you know, and just
So Donna's career was just sort of percolating at that point, correct? Or she was already a superstar?
well, she, like I said, she had the one record, "Love to Love You,
She had
Baby."
that one song, yeah.
Yeah, and
Which
it's
was
kind of
huge.
interesting. So when I met Donna, I was, I'm a nice guy now, like I said, but I could be a jerk when I was younger. So
I think we all were a little bit jerky.
Yes.
I guess
Yeah.
so. Donna had this hit, but at the same time, it was kind of a novelty song, and she really didn't sing so much on it, and so we met her, and I had no real expectation, but we start writing together, and I'm like, wow, this girl is amazing, and so we developed this relationship. Really, the four of us, we become instant friends, and uh, Donna and I evolve into where we have this, relationship, one-on-one, boyfriend girlfriend relationship. I had another girlfriend. She had a boyfriend. We had to navigate through that stuff.
Mhm.
Brooklyn Dreams, 1979 was her. Uh, Really the height of her career, 1979.
Yeah.
We co-wrote a song called Bad Girls with her. I co-wrote 4 songs with her on the Bad Girls album. Brooklyn Dreams became the opening act on her tour that year. So we toured, all the states. It was called the Summer Nights Dreams Tour. And then Brooklyn Dreams puts out its first album, Brooklyn Dreams. We do a movie called American Hot Wax.
Right.
Yeah. I think I saw that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, we formed. We had to be like a vocal group from the '50s, so we formed a group called the Planetones. The three of us with another friend from Brooklyn whose name was Kenny Vance,
Okay.
whose name is Kenny Vance, and we formed the Planetones for that movie. Great experience doing American Hot Wax. 3 months on the set with Jay Leno and Lorraine Newman from Saturday Night Live, and Tim McIntyre playing Alan Freed, and Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry and Ira
I want to
Newborn.
rewatch that movie now.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was a great band.
Hey,
Paul
I'm
Griffin.
thinking, as soon as he said Planetones, I was thinking of my dad's band, the Rocketones. How close is it? If they used
Yeah,
Rocketones, I would have had a
Yeah.
lawsuit.
yeah. I mean, there were so many tones
Yeah.
in the vocal group era.
Yeah.
That's why the Planetones was kind of a parody of
Yeah.
a tone's name.
Yeah.
But Ira Newborn on guitar in the band, Paul Griffith on keyboards. It was a great band. I mean, just great fun. Made lifelong relationships. Brenda Russell. I mean, just a great time making that movie. Wrote a song for "Thank God It's Friday." There was just a lot going on. Brooklyn Dreams record came out. It did pretty well. We had a couple of chart records. Big dance record called "Music, Harmony, and Rhythm." Um, uh,
It's a different world back then, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like it is now. I don't know how artists
yeah.
are putting out records and getting signed and all that stuff. That the pressure is
Yeah.
unbelievable.
It's
And
very different.
there's so much more competition, right? Anybody who's got a internet page could end up being
Yeah.
the next big star for
Yeah.
one reason or
Now,
another.
now
Yeah. Yeah.
where do
Yeah.
you think you got, we're still 50 years, we have 50 years to go, or maybe 40 now, and
Yeah.
you're hitting the charts, which even with the very different time that it was, there's something about you, Bruce, that you had figured out the secret sauce to writing songs that find their way onto the charts. And where do you think that comes from?
I don't know that there's a secret sauce. I think that to this very day, I continue to refine what I do, try to get better at what I do, and find places of inspiration, and the thing is, you work hard and you show up,
Yeah.
and you you think, okay, I'm going to keep going there's the target right in front of me. I'm going to keep
Right.
going for that target, and you keep going for that target, and then a door opens on the right and you go like, oh, this door just opened. You go like, okay, I'll walk through that door,
Yeah.
and so your direction becomes a little bit different. The target changes a little bit, but you just keep showing up. You keep doing what you do, and I mean, this is my story anyway. This is how I, you know,
A common theme we have on the show all the time is that artist tells know your audience, right? Know your target audience. So
uh,
you're writing songs for Donna are primarily dance songs. Now Brooklyn Dreams, uh, primarily, a dancey kind of thing, right?
yeah,
So,
we
so
we
do
were- we were kind of we were.
you don't change your ways in order to fit whatever is popular at that particular moment.
Well, the other thing that I say about writing songs is that you want to write a good song, and many songs can be pointed in a different genre direction based on how you dress it.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
So my goal is always to write a great song with a great melody and a great lyric and and so like even with Donna, yeah, on the Bad Girls album, uh, two of the songs that I wrote were ballads,
Mm,
on that record. One was called "On My Honor," and it's a beautiful song, and there's a steel guitar on there, and the thing about Donna was one of the first people. This became a kind of a trend later on, but Donna was one of the first artists that would record songs that uh, could go in different genres. So,
Right.
so obviously she was known as the Disco Queen, and so we're not escaping that. But as you dig into her albums, yes, there was plenty of dance music, but she also won. She was the first female to win the Rock and Roll Grammy for Hot Stuff.
mm.
You know, tapped into all kinds of genres.
You're reminding me that Steve Allen once did a bit reciting "Hot Stuff" as poetry. Did Donna see that, or did she react to it? Do you remember that at all?
um, I don't even know about that. I'll have to YouTube it and
He
find
took
it.
the lyrics to it and just sort of read them from a podium in a serious manner.
Sitting here eating my heart out, waiting for some lover to call. Dialed about 1 million numbers lately. Almost rang the phone off the wall. Looking for some hot stuff. Baby, this evening, I need some hot stuff.
I love it.
Got a kick out of it. I was wondering because it could be taken the wrong way. I was like, "What's he doing, crapping on my song like that? That's not nice." Or she might have
Yeah,
thought but she had a great sense of humor, which I'm probably sure she did. She appreciated it.
yeah, she did have a great sense of humor for sure.
How did for the two of you when she was already, I mean, I remember that song, her first hit, but with Hot Stuff and Bad Girls, when those kicked in, I think one could legitimately say she's the top pop artist on the planet. when
Yeah.
she really peaked. And you're attached to that in multiple ways. You're attached to that because you wrote one of those gigantic songs and then 4 others for the album, and you're dating her, eventually married to her. So the two of you how did it affect the two of you when she's literally maybe the most visible pop artist in the world?
Well, the thing is that we were just super busy.
Okay.
We were going 150 miles an hour, and it's writing, recording, press, tour, TV show. Yeah, so we were just going really fast, and within the time frame of 1977 to 1980, Brooklyn Dreams recorded 4 albums. I don't know how, Donna must have did close to, I don't know what she did in that time period. I don't remember really, but I know Brooklyn Dreams were recorded 4 albums. Songs and movies. Uh, there's just a lot going on, and then comes 1980. And we had a relationship wise, we had to navigate, the relationships that we were in. We were both under a lot of pressure. My record company is like, Bruce, if you get into this relationship, you're literally destroying your career because you're going to be walking around in her shadow. Her record company is like trying to protect her because they're want to protect their investment.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Brooklyn Dreams second album, by the time we got our second album, our contract had been sold from Millennium and bought by Casablanca. So the
Okay.
Brooklyn Dreams second album, we are now on Casablanca Records.
Right.
And
Which is literally one of the hottest record labels at that time, right? If people don't
it,
know
it,
Casablanca
it, it
Records,
was. It
you
was.
just look it up. Their stable of artists was on the charts
Unbelievable.
constantly.
I have some of
Yeah,
their
but
45s upstairs in my house.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
they were a hot label. They were run by Neil Bogart, who was a great record man and an inspirational guy, and but the thing is that uh, you know Brooklyn Dreams ended up there almost against our will.
Hmm.
We had no control over it. It was like,
Okay.
okay, it's like a basketball player getting traded. It was like,
Yeah.
so there we are. So okay, we're in that mix, and now the pressure is on us to become more of a disco act because,
Right.
starting out we leaned more on the R&B side. But
Right.
anyway, so we are. We're in this mix, and we do 3 more albums, and at that point it's 1980. Um, Donna and I are now have figured out that we're going to be together regardless of any pressure or any interracial couple pressure from the labels. We're both young and crazy, but we're together.
Right.
So at that point, 1980, I leave Brooklyn Dreams. I get a solo record deal back on Millennium. Jimmy Einer signs me to a solo deal. I do a solo record. Um,
What was the
uh,
flavor of that record, musically wise? 'Cause
it
I
was,
don't know if you were happy about being pressured into doing disco, especially in the late 70s, early 80s. The disco was getting a lot of pressure,
yeah,
negative pressure.
yeah, yeah,
So did
yeah.
you go
No,
back to your R&B roots at that point?
yeah. I mean, it was more I would say, a pop rock singer songwriter record.
Hmm.
You know, it, I guess it leaned a little bit, but it was kind of a pop rock record. So released a couple of singles, charted, didn't really break through. Um, Wrote this song called "Starting Over Again." Co-wrote it with Donna. It became a number 1 country song for Dolly Parton.
I saw
Uh,
that.
was on that first album, that solo album that I did, and at that point, Donna got pregnant, um, and I said, I realized that there was no way that I could we could maintain our relationship, our family. We were already raising Mimi, who was Donna's daughter from her first marriage,
Mhm.
and now she was pregnant with our daughter Brooklyn, and so I said, you know what, my dream is to be a songwriter. So I basically put down the solo artist situation and said I'm going to be focused on being a songwriter, and you know my family, and so Brooklyn was born. You know, 18 months later or whatever it was, Amanda was born, and we moved out of Hollywood. We bought a ranch, a 56-acre ranch out in Thousand Oaks. Moved the kids out of there, got them out of Hollywood, and I
Good move.
built a studio on the ranch. You know, got some horses, got some cows. Uh, and went on writing songs.
For a Brooklyn boy to be dealing with cows and horses and stuff,
Yeah.
how did
Well,
you do that?
it was really, my Roy Rogers fantasy.
Yeah.
It was like I grew up in the Roy Rogers, Gene Autry generation of black and white
Yep.
TV, and I was a little kid in the
Yeah,
neighborhood.
but I mean, man, that's like trying to be a doctor by watching like Dr. Kildare. You know what I mean? It's like just because it's on
Yeah.
TV doesn't make you a great rancher.
Well,
You must have learned a lot very quickly.
I learned a couple of hard lessons. I mean, I could tell you a couple of stories there. It's like the first time it was kind of cool. You wake up in the morning and one of the cows would give birth to a
Yeah,
calf,
that's
Oh,
and it'd be
that's
like, oh
great. Yeah.
wow, that's kind of like miraculous, until the day one of the calves is breech,
Oh
and
no.
two of the ranch hands have like a rope wrapped around like the two feet
yeah.
of the cow that are sticking out the butt of the mother,
Just
and they're
trying to
like
pull it
pulling
out.
this thing
Yeah.
out. I was like, oh, that's a revelation, and
Yeah.
but
I watch a lot
anyways.
of Clarkson's Farm on Prime Video, so
Ah,
I got a real education watching that show for 3 seasons.
yeah, yeah,
That-
there you go.
Crazy what
So
goes on at the farm.
How long were you guys at the farm?
we were at the farm for, I think, 9 years.
That sounds like a
Yeah.
great experience.
It was a great experience. It was a great experience for my kids. They were really young. It was great for our relationship. It was just a great time.
Mhm.
But we kind of moved around a lot. We were kind of antsy kind of people. We're like, okay, so we were there for a while. Then we moved to Connecticut. We moved to Weston, Connecticut, and by now it's the 90s, and um, I'm driving into the city every day, trying to write songs and making some different records with people, and still touring with Donna, singing background with Donna,
Oh,
going on the
nice.
road, and
So it's cool that you got to continue to be a writer and still be a dad and keep the
yeah,
family life going.
Yeah.
So that was a really great
yeah,
balance, I think, for you.
that was the goal,
Yeah,
so
for real.
and then I ultimately moved to Nashville, and then we were in Nashville for a long time, just about right up until Donna passed away,
Right.
which will be 13 years in a couple of days, on the
Wow.
17th of May.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
13 years.
Crazy.
Yeah. So
So now
rock and roll.
you're coming to us from Italy, is that correct? Tonight?
Yep. Yes. I remarried like 5 years ago to an Italian girl. And so I spend half the year, more or less. Kind of my life's kind of divided up in thirds. I'm a third in Italy, I'm a third in the States, and a third on the road,
Oh,
Right.
right.
touring,
Yeah.
doing shows. So, so I have a hit band here in Italy. It's kind of fun. It's a different configuration than my band in the States. Here I have a percussionist, a bassist, and a cellist.
Ooh.
So I still do my own repertoire of my songs, but different arrangements and different instrumentation kind of keeps it cool and interesting. And I have a studio here that I do a lot of writing when I'm here in Italy, because I have 9 grandchildren,
Wow.
five of which are in LA. So when I go back to the States, I'm at home in LA. I spend a lot of time with the grandkids and doing that. So typically when I'm here in Milan, I do a lot of songwriting.
Mm.
My producer is a guy named Ken Lewis, who, just won the Grammy for Alicia Keys' Broadway musical. And, he's worked with everybody from Kanye to I don't know who, but he produced my current album, Talking Ugly Truth, and so now we're working on the next one, and I'm writing songs for that, and
Wow.
yeah,
You had to have written thousands of songs.
yeah, I guess forget many songs. My brother. Typically, when I write a song, very often, as I'm demoing the song, I'll send it to my brother just for him to bounce it off him,
Yeah.
Right.
and so over the years, every now and then he'll send me, a cassette or something, of a song that I completely forgot about,
Wow.
Now
and it's
what's
yeah, I forgot. My manager. There's always new ways to earn money on your songs, and so they're always registering my songs with different organizations and
Yeah.
whatever. And they're always finding songs that they did that I forgot that I wrote that I never
yeah.
told them about, and
That's wild.
Do you write
so,
what is your output? I mean, do you even if you don't complete a song every day, do you try to write every day?
I mean, yeah, it doesn't work out to every day, but when I'm here in Italy, and I'm kind of in a routine where 3 or 4 days a week, I'll hit it for an hour or an hour and a half, see if I get any vibe that sparks me to sit down and dig deeper, and it's like I work from a spark of inspiration, and then I have to figure out what I'm really trying to say and how I want to say it,
Mm.
Yeah. Do you
and from there I demo it. Then I go and I'll do a demo, put some keyboards on, do some vocals, send it to Ken Lewis, who is in Cincinnati, Ohio,
okay.
and work on the arrangements with him. A lot of the musicians that we use in the rhythm section are in New Jersey and New York. Um, um, uh, so
That's the one good thing that's happening now with all these streaming services and shows and whatnot. There's room for lots and lots of music, right? It used to be
yes,
just like commercials, TV, and film, but TV has gotten almost as big as film. They're building a Netflix studio here in New Jersey, where the old Fort Monmouth was. They just broke
yes,
ground on that. That's going to be huge. They're going to be producing
absolutely.
hundreds of shows, and they all need music, and they all
Yep.
need
Yep,
actors, and they all need gaffs and
yep,
whatever else they need to make a television
Yep.
show.
They all need to be
yep.
interviewed on Guitar Tales.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. There you go.
I
Yeah, it's like things keep changing. People often ask me, well, how do you feel about the new way? And I'm not one of those people who laments the way it used to be. You
Yeah,
know, uh, the music business has always changed as long as I've been in it. Yes, this current change is maybe more, drastic than the ones in the past, when you're evolving from, 7/8 to 45 to 45 to cassette or an 8 track and all that. This is a little bit of a bigger evolution, but you just there's no point in lamenting what was. You have to
right.
do what is,
right.
and so that's kind of my philosophy, and I do the best as I can, with it.
That's a healthy
So
that's a healthy attitude
Yeah.
because
Work
you
hard
really got
and
to
yeah,
show
rise to
up.
the occasion,
Yeah.
and the old saying, "If you can't beat them, join them," couldn't be any
yeah.
more true now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at this point in my career, it's like I'm not in the business the way that I used to be. I
Sure.
mean, when I was a younger man, I was competing. I wanted to be successful. So I was writing, co-writing, trying to have hits. You know, uh, this configuration of me being the singer-songwriter, going out back again, out by myself and recording my own albums began when Donna passed away.
Right.
You know, I started writing songs about that experience while she was sick. Um, she actually even heard a number of the songs, commented on a couple of the songs, told me I had to write a couple of songs that gave people hope, which I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I wrote for this first album that was called "With Angels on a Carousel,"
Nice.
so you know, and songwriting, you know, was my place of refuge
Right.
through that trauma in my
Right.
life. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
I've lived a very blessed life. I always say that, you know, losing Donna was the one tragedy in my life, and you know, I've had to learn to live with it and figure out how to carry on and walk forward. And so songwriting and taking on the challenge at this point in my life to be a solo guy, singer songwriter, going out there on my own at this point in my life and entertaining an audience
Yeah.
was a new challenge, and in a good way. You know, I've continued to grow in this realm, and so I think, you know, at any point in your life you want to have a place to grow to,
Mhm.
and something and a purpose, and so that's where I'm at, you know.
That's
So
awesome. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with the touring and stuff, and when that all starts. If you're getting out at all, you're making some new records. What's happening?
yeah, about a year ago I put out an album called "Talking Ugly Truth, Telling Pretty Lies." um it's a really good record, you know. I think Ken
Love the
produced it.
title.
Yeah, I love
uh,
the title.
That
yeah,
title's great.
the title is it's a song about a couple of renegades, you know, a renegade couple who think that you know, they can do things undercover and get away with it forever. You know, I kind of align it to like a mafioso story of the mafioso who like gets away with everything their whole life, and then they're, you know, they're 78 years old, and then they get arrested for jaywalking and end up spending the rest of their life in jail. So
Right.
so Talking Ugly Truth is this kind of story, but it's also on another level a commentary on the assault of truth in our current culture. You know, so, you know, so there are a couple of social content songs on the record. There's a song called "Under the Gun," which, you know, talks, you know, in a poetic way, you know, talks about common sense gun control and tries to bring up the point of, you know, you know, it doesn't have to be either or the Second Amendment or not. You know,
Right.
Right.
we can
Right.
have common sense and still have the Second Amendment. You know, there's a duet with Valerie Simpson. Valerie Simpson, who, you know, songwriter, singer songwriter, Hall of Fame. Every woman ain't no mountain high enough. You know,
Right.
Ashford and
Yeah.
Simpson.
Yeah.
She blessed me by singing one of my songs on this record. It's a
That's
record called, a
fantastic.
song called Two Bleeding Hearts. Um, so yeah, so that's the last record, and we've been working our way through that. Touring. You know, intermittent. The last few years, I did a couple of tours with the Zombies,
Oh
Rod
wow.
Argent and Colin Blunstone, that's been great fun. UK, the States. Um, you know, the last couple of years I did this On the Blue cruise, which is the Moody Blues cruise, and bunch of acts doing that stuff. Last night I played a gig in Savona in Italy,
Nice.
uh, which was a lot of fun. Got home at 1 o'clock in the morning and watched the Knicks game until 4 a.m.
Oh my god.
There you go.
So when I said good morning and it was night, maybe that was true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I told Francesca, my wife, I said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing that again. I'm a little too old for these like
I'm
all-nighters, you know.
impressed. I'm very
So
impressed with that.
So I have
yeah.
I'm gonna post here something, a place people can find everything about you, pretty much your tour dates, your social media links, and more and more. And you've got all kinds of stuff. We went to brucesudano.com. It's all there for you. You could take a picture of that QR code or just type it in your web browser there and see what Bruce is up to in Italy, in the States, and otherwise.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
This was so much fun.
Well, thanks, guys. I'm sorry if I was rambling. I didn't get much sleep.
No, dude, this is what we want.
Make our job easier.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, hopefully I get to Asbury Park and maybe I do a gig at the Stone Pony or something and I get to meet
Sure.
you guys.
We would
Absolutely.
love that. Scott plays
Or
there.
I go visit my friend Scott Schneider on Long Island on the what is it?
Long Beach Island.
Long Beach Island, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Stop and see
come
Dave's
come
house.
visit you, Dave.
Go for a
All
ride on
three of us
Dave's
hang
jet
out. I'd
skis.
love that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
I was over at Dave's house last night. I was teaching him a couple of things on
He
guitar.
did. He
I
taught
gave
me
him a free guitar lesson.
a Joe Walsh
Oh.
riff, a wonderful Joe Walsh riff, and I actually was
Man,
able to do it a little bit.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great, man. I could use some guitar lessons for sure. I think the last riff that I remember learning off a record was off the Rhinoceros record. Go check out the record by the band Rhinoceros.
Okay.
I
Cool, we will.
don't even remember the song, but it was a great lick. It was a
I'm
great
getting
one.
tripped up learning car songs and the great Elliot Easton and his left-handed shit.
Ah.
He got me up a wall with his licks and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's how I learn, even after all these years of playing, just to
absolutely,
play something
man.
out of my wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. So keep
doing it.
going.
Yes, sir.
All right, my brothers.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Bruce.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Have
for
a great one.
hanging with us,
Yeah.
and we'll. I guess let's end the show with the great Ron Bumblefoot's talking about great guitar players.
There you go.
So we'll do that, and then Bruce, stay in touch, my man. We'll follow you
Thank
on
you.
the socials.
All
Have a
right.
good
Yeah,
night.
appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Viva Italia.
Hello, I'm Ron Bumblefoot Thole, and you're watching Guitar Time.